Welcome to Ashby's quarterly CHC webinar meeting. My name is Marta Klipatowska. I'm the Programs and Communications Manager at Ashby. I'll be emceeing the slides today. Please note that today's webinar meeting is being recorded and will be circulated for those who registered along with the presentation slides. That's, of course, for those who are also attending. A quick look at today's agenda. Greg, if you'd like to quickly run us through that.
Okay, so first there'll be a quick call to order, welcome introductions, and a little bit about the CHC from Ken Wax. Some administrative work where we're approving past minutes from previous meetings. Anyone on the call can first or second or make a motion to approve those minutes. A little bit on a research update from our recently completed CHC research project. And then a keynote presentation on fire detection, suppression, and prevention by connectivity, revolutionizing residential fire safety by Chasen Tolbert from FireAvert. And then we'll go a little bit about our Ashby podcast, some white papers, our journal, some new business that council members want to bring forward or discuss, or potentially discuss future keynote presentations or podcasts or whatnot. And then some announcements of upcoming and past events in the connected home space. And then finally an adjournment. So with that, I'll pass it off to a longtime Ashby member and chair of the CHC, Ken Wax.
Well, thank you very much, Greg, and I welcome you all to this quarterly meeting of the Connected Home Council at the Association of Smarter Homes and Buildings. We were established about 20 years ago in 2004 as the Connected Home Council with the charter of looking at the array of business opportunities in interconnected equipment, both in homes and apartment buildings, known in the trade as multiple dwelling units or MDUs. We look at both technologies and applications in this field. Our mission is to find business opportunities for new technologies for consumer electronics, including broadband services, as we help grow this industry. It started with terms like home automation that has now been expanded to a connected home or the broadband home. We offer through the Connected Home Council webinars and research topics, and you'll be getting both today at our meeting. Our objective is to use technology to make connected homes more flexible, adaptable, and human-centric. So let's deal with some of the administrative matters. We keep meetings of each, we keep minutes of each meeting. Our last meeting was August 15th. The minutes were distributed by Marta. So I'd like to know if anyone has any corrections to the minutes. Otherwise, we're looking for a motion to approve the minutes. So is there anyone that would like to make a motion for approval of the minutes?
I attended. It's David Katz. I move to accept the minutes.
Thank you, David. Anyone would like to second this motion?
Seconded.
Thank you. And if there's no objection, and I'll wait 5 seconds. So hearing no objection, the motion passes and the minutes are approved. So now Greg will update us on the landmark research project at CHC.
Thanks, Ken. So this is the landmark research project that we do every year. We do one in residential and one in the commercial space. This one was recently completed by Harbor Research, the research firm that was selected to conduct the research for 2024. It's actually a second year of smart home trends and technology adoption research project, really a smart home adoption curve. and we're most likely going to continue this again in 2025. And this is roughly around a $50,000 research project. We looked at 500 consumer surveys around mostly US, but a little bit of Canada as well, and providing a report based on that with some topics on annual perspectives and operator needs and things like that. And then there was a couple of configured research projects that we did in the smart home space, dedicating 100 analyst hours into smart home hubs and interaction trends. And then there was another one on privacy and data sharing. And then there was a series of research, a series of reports that were given out to the steering committee throughout the year. And we had several on the steering committee, and you see some of the funders and some of the organizations on the screen. So the report is going to be available for sale for $4,900 as opposed to the $5,000 the minimum to fund it, and that'll be available sometime early in 2025, and then we'll be starting a new project in 2025 in a similar scope where it would be you can participate for $5,000 or $10,000 to get involved and share this research project for next year. So with that, I think it's not really official readout of the research itself. We did that for all the funding organizations, and now that on the steering committee, they had individual readouts for their organizations as well. This is really just to let the council know that this project is completed and we're starting another one in 2025. Thanks.
All right, so we'll move into our keynote. We've got Chasen Tolbert with us from FireAvert. Just a quick overview of his presentation today. Kitchen fires remain the leading cause of home fires in the US. It's a significant threat to residential safety. And we've had smoke alarms. They've been a staple in homes for well over 100 years, but the evolution has been slow and really haven't changed much over the years. Modern advancements have included smoke alarms capable of notifying homeowners of incidents, but without some type of intervention, the risk of disaster is still there. So traditional fire or flame suppression products can help, but if the power source, gas or electric, if your stove is still on, the fire can reignite. So today we have technology for devices to communicate and coordinate actions such as shutting off stoves automatically to prevent fires from escalating into tragedies. So Chasen Tolbert's with us again. He's a partnerships manager at FireAvert. He's going to explore how these innovations are reshaping the future of residential fire safety. And just a quick note on Chasen. He's a former D1 athlete, turned to the corporate world. He's made a career doing what he loves, bringing organizations together while fostering synergies and furthering productivity. So without further ado, we'll hand it over to Chasen and we'll learn about these technologies.
Hey, thanks for the intro, Charlie. Let me go ahead and share my screen and we can get started.
Yes. Have you switched to your, yes, here it comes.
How's that looking?
Yes,
Are y'all
you've
able to
just
see my
gone to
screen?
full screen. It looks fine.
Okay, perfect. Well, yeah, like Charlie said, I'm Chasen Tolbert with FireAvert. I got into this industry, it's been almost 10 years ago as a college student. So I was wrestling in college at Utah Valley University, and I started with a company called Vivint Smart Home. You probably have seen this around. They have a ton of customers at this point. And it's ADT and Vivint are the big names. Vivint just so happens to be a stone's throw away from Utah Valley University in Provo, Utah. And so it was a good fit for me. I actually started with Vivint as a door-to-door salesman. So when you get someone knocking on your door and bribing you to switch your alarm company, that's what I was doing. Um, and it was a hard job, a lot of rejection, even though I felt like we had a really good offering. And so we would look for people that had ADT, Monotronics, Front Point, any of these various alarm companies you've probably seen, with the little yard sign by their front door. If they had something that didn't say Vivint, we would knock on their door and just talk to them about switching. And we would bribe them with things like the doorbell camera. This is what our offering looked like at the time. And so Vivint started in 2000. It was very simple. They had a hub of some sort that communicated via Z-Wave to sensors like door and window contacts, a motion sensor, and sometimes a smoke alarm. When I came on the scene, um, Vivint started adding other products. So surveillance got really popular. And our flagship product was the doorbell camera. So we would talk to people that didn't have a doorbell camera and bribe them to switch if we gave them one, and their monthly bill was about the same price. But as I interacted with customers, I kind of got a feel for like how the use cases were really being implemented with these products. Um, and my job quickly transitioned to be more of like an R&D side of things. So I was doing less selling and more just customer interaction and then partnerships. And so a lot of the products at Vivint were made in-house, but then we transitioned to work with third-party vendors like Yale, who makes like a quick set smart lock, or Nest that made a thermostat, or the MyQ garage opener. Because what we found is the IoT devices that they work, there's a lot of synergies. Like a doorbell camera is not just a doorbell camera. We noticed after knocking on doors and communicating with customers that we had switched over that they were using their garage door control for a lot of things. So we noticed that we could have a lot of these devices work together. So it wasn't just one device that opened and closed the garage and another device that turned on your alarm system. We made custom rules that if you set your alarm, then your garage closed. If you could go to the next slide, Marta. This is something interesting we found that when we would sell doorbell cameras, customers would report to us that their kiddos, in order to get a hold of the parent, if they couldn't find them, they would run outside and ring the doorbell. And so the video camera would call the parent, they would get a notification on their phone, and they could talk to their kid. And their kid would ask, hey, is it all right if I have a snack? Or could I invite my friend over? Or where are you? Um, so um, we were like, this is such an interesting use for a doorbell camera. And so if you could go to the next slide, Marta. So Vivint developed this camera that goes indoors. It has a button on the top, and parents will set it near the TV or in the living room somewhere. And when kids need to get a hold of their parents because they don't quite have phones yet, they go and they push the button on top of the camera and they can have basically a FaceTime with
So
their parent.
it's a video intercom.
Exactly. Yeah. And so if you're at work, you get a vibration in your pocket, you pull it out, your kiddo's calling you, asking whatever they need to ask or communicating to you in the only way they know how, and they don't have to run outside and ring the doorbell. At the same time, you can peek in on your kids and make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, like not watching TV and doing their homework or picking up the house or feeding the dog or whatever it is. And so we realize there's several use cases for each of these IoT devices. Marta, can you go to the next one? At the same time that I worked at Vivint, Peter Thorpe was a firefighter in the same town, Provo, Utah. So Peter, as a career firefighter, would answer calls where he would go bust down a door, smoke would billow out, and they would quickly realize the cause of the fire was unattended cooking. And so we found a lot of stats on unattended cooking. It's the number one cause of kitchen fires. and it happens every 4.5 minutes. And so these are super common. Maybe not between any one of us on the call, but because I've never done it, but I always have met someone who knows someone who has done it. Marta, can you go to the next one? And so we started seeing campaigns like these. When the stats started coming out, people that were in the multifamily housing space, owning apartment complexes, maybe if you've been to an Airbnb, fire departments have sponsored this sort of thing. Keep looking while cooking. The next one, Marta. There's sometimes infographics like this in hotel rooms that feature a stove or an oven. Just don't leave while it's still on because we don't need to burn down our property. If you could go to the next one. Same thing. Another fire department put out some sort of media that said, make sure you're being safe with your cooking. Next one, Martha. The other thing that we realize is pets. Pets burn down houses all the time. If you could go to the next slide. This is some surveillance photo of a puppy dog, smelled something up on the stove, hopped up there and turned the knobs and could have caused a fire. And so we realized this happened. The next slide, Marta. They realized in Japan that cats were causing fires. They would sniff something up on the stove, they'd climb up there and tip something over, push a button, wind up burning down properties. Next one, please. Same thing with elderly people. So elderly cooking is a space that we're just really starting to crack open. Ever since COVID, the goal is to keep elderly people independent as long as possible because we realize their quality of life goes way down. They don't want to move out of their house. We don't really need them to be in an expensive home. And so the old solution was if grandma or grandpa left something on the stove and you found out about it after they went and watched TV and fell asleep and almost burned down their house, you would just unplug their appliance. Sorry, mom. Sorry, dad. This just doesn't work anymore. You can't cook. It's broken. With FireAvert, we've realized that we can just prevent a fire in the event that they leave the stove on. It mitigates that risk exponentially. Next one, Marta. So basic concept of the FireAvert device is if your food on the stove begins to smoke, it will inevitably trigger your smoke alarm. When the smoke alarm sounds, the FireAvert shuts off the stove. So smoke alarms are code. You have to have them everywhere in the United States and a lot of other countries. And they all have a specific cadence or warble to them. I forgot the name of the code, but they have to sound a certain way. And FireAvert listens specifically for that and has been developed to not go off if a dog is barking or if it's a children's toy or something random like that. It only will shut off your stove if it's a smoke alarm. And so pretty niche technology and pretty smooth device to do one specific job, and that's to cut the heat source. Next one, Marta.
Just a question, does that work on both gas and electric stoves or different shutoff valves or only one?
Yes. Yeah. So gas just cuts off the current, the electrical current. The stove for a gas one will have a solenoid. So a FireAvert device will just shut the solenoid and reduce, cut off the gas flow.
So I have a practical issue because I encountered this just last week. I was doing some frying that led to more smoke than I expected. I turned on the vent, but not soon enough, and the smoke alarm went off. And I had to just close the door from the kitchen and blow the smoke away from the alarm, and it reset. With your system, would I have been able to reset it as quickly?
Yeah, you can now the newer ones, you can just do it from your phone, or there's a button on the device, or you can switch your breaker on and off, and it'll just turn your stove back on. we kind of mitigate that just random shutoffs of your stove. If you're just a bad cook, we can prevent you from having to turn your stove back on every time. You can set the delay to be 90 seconds of your smoke alarm sounding. So,
Okay.
so yeah, we've kind of thought of
You're
that.
calling me a bad cook, huh?
I mean, so,
And I left the gas on without the stove. I thought I took I put it on low and then I took the pan off and I just had, my wife came down and saw that the gas was on low, polluting.
yeah, so it never lit.
Hmm.
No, I left the burner on by taking off the pan and not turning it to low instead of completely off.
Oh, I got you.
So
Yeah,
that wasn't immediate fire risk, but it's just wasting energy.
Right, but
right.
it's the sensor that might have been able to. I'll let you finish.
Yeah, I'll get to that. The solution has been accomplished at this point. So, um, fast forward to about 7 years ago, Peter, the same firefighter who had all these events happen, wound up on Shark Tank. The sharks loved it. He made a deal with Lori on TV, and ever since then, his small operation for this niche idea that was out of his garage turned into the company that I work at now. So, um, the salespeople, after they appeared on national TV, we got all sorts of attention. The sales team quickly noticed the low-hanging fruit was apartment buildings. There were landlords and property management groups that were calling to get this because they have tenants that live in their properties that are not as careful as they would like them to be. And that was their number one insurance claim, um, fire damage and water damage. And the big problem with multifamily housing is that if someone starts a fire on the second floor, they're putting everyone in danger, and there's huge risk for everyone. So if you could go to the next one, Marta. So this is the device that has been developed to this point. It plugs into your stove plugs into the wall, and if it hears that, it just cuts off the current. The gas one is similar, it just shuts a solenoid. There's different stoves in the US and Canada. There's 3-prong, there's 4-prong. As we're starting to expand internationally, they all use different things as well. So that's kind of been something for us to hurdle. But basic concept everywhere is that we want to remove the heat source. Next slide, please. So this is kind of the other solution that was there, that's been here for a while. It's a canister. They adhere or they mount to underneath the hood over your stove, and they have a wick on them. Next slide. So in the event that your fire breaks out, if that flame hits the wick or if it's hot enough, it'll set that wick off and then it'll explode some sort of suppressant like this. Yeah, go to that one. Okay, perfect. So yeah, if it hits that wick, shoots the suppressant, but you notice that they still want you to shut off the stove, which is great if someone is around. The problem though is all these fires are coming from unattended cooking. Sometimes the suppressant kicks out and it puts out the fire momentarily, but it's not a permanent fix, and that heat source is still going, and the fire will reignite. And so although we dodged a bullet momentarily, it didn't really solve the problem. And so landlords, property managers, even just people taking care of their elderly parents, or they know their wife's a bad cook, they're kind of moving away from the canisters and coming more towards the technology solution, which is FireAvert. Next slide, please. So we came up with a great idea recently, and this is kind of where it plays into the Ashby point of view and why I feel like this has been perfect for what we all set out to do. Next slide. We added a radio module to each of our devices. So now the FireAvert still does its base job of shutting off the stove. But now we have current detection. So to go back to your question, if your stove is just on and it's been on for a weird amount of time because you thought you shut it all the way off, but it's just on low, you can get a notification on your phone. It says, is this normal? If there's smoke detected and it's not even from cooking, if you bought an old lamp at a yard sale and it has a weird circuit in it that fries and creates a fire and your smoke alarm goes off, we can still notify you that there's smoke being detected in the space. And then the last one, which is our flagship device, is the stove shut off. And so we can shut off your stove in any of these cases. If it's on, we can shut it off. So we're kind of getting nitpicky with like what we're sensing and what we're detecting, but we're able to solve a lot more problems. We're not wasting any energy if your stove's been on accidentally for a while. If you're out of town and your dog jumps up on the stove to see what's up there and accidentally turns it on, we can know all of these things. Next slide, Marta. We can know all these things by working in conjunction with other sensors. So just like at Vivint, we're working with your door lock. We can tell that if you've left the home and your stove is still on, the lock will tell us, oh, nobody's in the house, or the motion sensor will tell us nobody's in the house, but the stove is still on. We can send you a notification immediately saying, hey, we noticed you left. The stove is still on. Is this supposed to be the case? And we can shut it off. We can tell through all these devices working together. I think it's just the ultimate source of saving time, energy, money, maybe even lives. But FireAvert being like the key piece of that in fire protection. So at Vivint, we had what we called a firefighter. It was basically just a device that you installed next to your smoke alarm. And if the smoke alarm sounded, it would notify you, which was on the right track. It was great technology at the time, but it would only notify you. And if you're away, then you have nothing else to do besides call the fire department. And since fires double in size every 2.5 minutes, you don't have a ton of time before you need the fire department to show up. And so, without removing the heat source or fixing the problem or rushing back, we could only just notify, which is what most people are still on right now, is just receiving notifications if there's a problem without really any prevention. So we have fire detection. Smoke alarms have been around for a century or more. And we have fire suppression with canisters and fire extinguishers. But the fire prevention is where the industry's kind of lacking. And I feel like FireAvert fills that niche, where we're really the only solution that just prevents a fire before it breaks out, cuts the heat source before it's a problem. And so hopefully that answered all your questions. I think that's my last slide. There might be one more. But yeah, I'm open to any questions. Hopefully that was helpful. I appreciate you working with me through those technical difficulties.
Yeah, I
Well,
have a question.
just want to thank you very much. I think we did do a quick workaround to the technical glitch, and every slide was very visible and you were synchronized. So appreciate
Glad to
your
hear it.
patience. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is David. I have a question about, so I've been working multi-res for over 30 years, and I agree with you 100%. Will the insurance companies maybe help that? Well, one is the cost per stove or per system, and the integration with your Wi-Fi to get to your phone. So how is it sold? And will the insurance companies potentially help us by, as they do with cars and leak detection for water, they're giving money for people to avoid catastrophes?
Right. You would think, and actually the answer is yes. So it's a case by case basis. There hasn't been just a baseline. If you install FireAvert, you get this amount of discount. There's a lot of things that play into it, and we've noticed with some of our older customers that have had FireAvert installed for multiple years, that we've changed behavior. We can track the data. We know that they used to have this many fire events, and now they have way fewer. And we can show that to their insurance, and then they get breaks. And so it's kind of a on a basis instance where if you want to approach your insurer and then show them the data, we've had tons of people get discounts. Currently working with Nationwide and State Farm on something more formal. But this technology is still just kind of new. And fire and water are the number one claims that these insurance companies are dealing with. I think everyone has the same goal, like between the property owner, FireAvert, and the insurers, that we just want to reduce claims. And so our goal now is to prove that, and we're providing data to these insurance providers so that we can make FireAvert more standard for the people they insure.
You mentioned Canada, USA. Is it CSA approved? Are you selling them in Canada? Because that's where.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
I'll touch base with you.
we have a whole bunch in Canada. Our newest thing is we signed a contract in the Netherlands. So there's someone there that's going to be over the Germany and the Netherlands, and we have Australia on the docket. So we're just going through certifications in those countries, but found that other cultures are a little bit different in the way they cook. In Asia, there's not a lot of they oftentimes just have a small propane or butane stovetop or cooker that they use, and it's not as similar as what we're probably used to. Australia, that's next on the docket. They have really similar cooking and lifestyle as we do. So South America is hard because they have all of their buildings made out of concrete, and so they're not as concerned about kitchen fires. They probably happen. It's probably just as common, but I don't think they're as concerned. So we're just kind of playing it by ear and case by case instance, but we have our hands full, and so we're not really going crazy trying to get into those spaces.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions for our featured speaker? Well, if not, Chasen, thank you so much for an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
So let's see where we are on the agenda, Marta. We are to new business at this point. It's an opportunity for anyone to suggest new directions for the Connected Home Council, any suggestions for a keynote presentation. We're starting to plan out our calendar for next year. Of course, as I mentioned, we have the opportunity for you to create an original white paper, and I will help you assemble a committee of experts from among the CHC members. So anyone? All right, well, we'll turn now to
Ken, I'm
David.
always looking for opportunities. So one of the technologies that we have is improving the existing windows in your home. Instead of buying new windows, partly to save energy, but also to reduce noise. And so we have many homes that are backing onto railroad tracks. So I might be able, I've made a presentation on both the energy saving and the noise reduction from Magnetite, which is a US company, but we are doing them in Canada. So maybe I can do something on that.
So are you saying that without changing out the frames and putting in multi-layers of glass, you can, with an overlay, improve the noise transmittance, reduce the noise transmittance in glass?
It's been around for over 30 years. It's an acrylic panel. So instead of putting plastic on your window, which you can get at Home Depot, it's basically saran wrap. You use a two-way tape and you use a hair dryer to stretch it. Those things break, and as was just shown, early things work, but only in certain cases. With Magnetite, which is an American company, but we have it in Canada now, it takes an acrylic panel that's 5 times the R value of glass. And so it changes your single pane or your original window if it's structurally sound and it's not mold, and inputs it on the interior of your window. Even, you can remove the blinds, etc. So there's a version that's specific to lowering the energy, and there's another version that is reducing noise. So people
Okay.
that live to train tracks, etc. So I think I've mentioned this a number of times on the home.
Right.
I'm working on big buildings, but the company has said they're doing most their it's about comfort as opposed to energy.
David, okay, enough for the commercial. But you can certainly stretch us into a presentation where you tell us about the technology, the transmittance, the dB reduction.
Yeah,
And
and
that would,
there are competing versions, so I can make it education.
okay. And if you actually get competing versions as part of a presentation, I'll leave it up to Marta and Greg to make the final judgment about appropriateness and finding a slot for you. But I think Marta and Greg would agree this is something that Ashby would consider.
Absolutely.
Good. Thank you very much, David. So we turn to Charlie with announcements.
Yeah, just a few upcoming events. We got I think it's the Smart Lighting Expo, right? That's in Toronto this week. We have a booth there as well. I think Marta was talking about that earlier. And then Connections, that's held by Parks Associates. That's a virtual event in December. And then the big event, CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, January in Las Vegas. We'll have a booth there as well. And then the last one that's in the not so distant future, IoT Evolution in Fort Lauderdale in February.
Greg, are you going to AHR Expo this year?
We are, David. We didn't list it on here. We listed it on our large buildings council
Okay,
meeting.
yeah, it's a large
But
building one.
certainly, yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
No, for sure. We're definitely good. I mean, it's definitely worth a mention. So we'll definitely be there. We'll be presenting there. Greg will be moderating a panel session there as well. So certainly, let us know if you're going to be there and come by our booth, say hi to us.
Yeah, I think these events are more focused around, they lean more towards residential versus commercial.
Right. And of course, the Consumer Electronics Show has traditionally been the largest trade show in the U.S. It has shrunk somewhat since the pandemic. This will be a good test. It hit a peak of 180,000 in 2020, and last January was 135,000. So we'll see where it goes.
Wow.
Ken, you mentioned multi-res, and we did a number of studies how it's different for a single family owner, who owns the home versus a landlord or renters and condos. So I think that there's some things that are really smart happening in multi-res that we could bring to the fore.
Well, without digressing too much, I chair the International Standards Committee for ISO and IEC, and we deal both with standards for homes and multi-res. And I can tell you there's a lot of activities in East Asia in multi-res, especially places like South Korea.
We have major deep retrofit money from our Canadian government to do major deep retrofits of multi-res to save both the owners and the renters the energy they waste.
So Marta, I believe we've gone through the entire agenda. As you can see, our next meeting is scheduled for February 2025.
That's right.
And Marta will provide you information about that.
Exactly. A little closer to, we'll be able to know the exact date and the speaker for that.
And if I might, Marta, for those of you on the phone who are in the renewable energy space, we have an open meeting coming up in 30 minutes of the Customer Grid Edge Committee at the Interstate Renewable Energy Council. Our featured speaker today is going to be talking about the interaction between vehicles and charging stations at homes and apartment buildings. If anyone wants to attend, let's see, Marty, I gave you the contact info, right?
That's right. If
So
anyone's interested, shoot us a quick email. We'll be monitoring the email admin@ashby.com, and we'll provide you with the link for that.
the meeting begins at 1:30 Eastern. Someone asked if you could put it in the chat.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Bear with me here,
So
and we'll get that out to everybody right now.
So the meeting is 1:30 Eastern today in 30 minutes. We'll just keep this line open for a moment till the chat
That's
gets up.
right.
So other than that, we are adjourning our meeting of the Connect